so great to see you. I know we're supposed to introduce ourselves first, but I can't stand it anymore.
Yeah, you too. I'm so excited when they reached out and they were like, is there anyone that you would want to talk to? Yeah. Yeah.
So for those of you who are not in with us at this moment in the Zoom room, I'm Rae Goodwin, and I'm faculty in the School of Art and Visual Studies. I'm currently the director of foundations. My own practice is in performance art and sculpture.
And I'm Meg Klosterman. I graduated with a double major in art studio and arts administration in 2019. Yeah, all the times coming like blends together now. And then I decided to go right into an MFA program at the Slade School of Fine Art in London. Yeah, it's been interesting because I've spent half of lockdown in the US and half of it here. And we're in another lockdown here at the moment. So it's very interesting seeing how the different places have handled the pandemic.
How are you able to function as a creative practitioner in all of this? How's your schooling? How's your work going?
I had a very difficult time when I first came to the UK. I was very excited, solely in the fact that it's a different place, it's a different location. I love London and I love the UK. So I was very excited for those reasons. Mm-hmm. But as soon as I got here, I hit a brick wall with making work because I didn't realize how much of my practice was associated with, I knew it was about home, but I didn't realize how dependent I was on the landscape of the US and like just little things I missed that I didn't expect to miss. And then with the first lockdown, I ended up getting kind of trapped back in the US for a couple of months because I was traveling home anyway then. And then we all thought it was going to be a couple of weeks. I was like, I'll just stay here. And then a couple months later, that's not how it worked out. That was a very important time in my practice because it made me kind of realize how not important the US was as much as I thought it was. I had a whole list of things I needed to do when I was back in the US. And I even flew TSA and I had a couple interesting conversations because I flew back with mason jars of dirt from different places in the US. And I thought that these things, the materiality of the US, I thought was very important. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of all fell through that's not as important. So working with that within COVID has been very interesting because materiality is hard to capture online, especially when access to studio space goes in and out a bit.
So are you inventing material? Are you do you need material? What is your practice like now? Because material was so important for you.
So all of my material, because the second lockdown in the UK kind of came up abruptly, that I wasn't able to go into the studio space and get my materials. Ooh. Yeah. So I've been working a lot with small found objects, and I have a big part of my practice, which I didn't really do this at all in undergrad, has now become writing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot, you can write anywhere. And I feel like I've found a lot of freedom and comfort in that. I have some ideas of how to bring the writing more into materials. The 8th, I get access. So in 6 days, I get access to my studio space again. Yeah. So hopefully that'll be able to translate. But yeah, I've just been trying to use this time to think of work outside of materials.
Wonderful. Well, and there's so many artists who integrate material and text. Material and writing, right? And so there's so many ways in which you can use words or text to create visual art.
Jenny Halser is by far the best example of that, I think.
There are so many, Meg. There's so many. It's unbelievable, right? It's almost endless. I've been really going down a little rabbit hole about that lately. So it's interesting that you're working towards that or in that with that. And I think it's smart to take the time to write and just to figure out what the words mean for you and what the words share with you and how they can inspire you. And then, you could even go sideways and go into creative writing too.
I feel like a lot of the people that I'm surrounded by in my MFA program the digital is a very important aspect of their practice. I tried to fit my work in that for a while, and it just was making me very unhappy. And kind of had a bit of a realization. I went to an artist talk about just a lot of times we get so intellectual about our work and it needs to do something, and it's okay to just want to enjoy it at the same time too. That was also part of the decision I made to kind of be a little more gentle on myself. And if I'm not making anything tangible right now, it's okay. That's needed, because if I force something, it's not gonna be what I want it to be. I think as the way I work as an artist.
That's beautiful. Everybody works so differently. Some people have to touch every little part every day. And some people work more episodically, like I'm going to work over here for like 8 weeks or 2 years, or like, or one day, and then over here for 1 day or 8 weeks or 2 years, right? And it builds towards something. Maybe it's a collective and maybe it's separate series or bodies of work. I mean, you get to decide that for yourself. I mean, the only external forces that really just kind of frame those kind of practices in a timeline are your classes, your semester, and then any exhibitions and deadlines for exhibitions, grants, etc. So there are external forces that kind of give us those kinds of structures, but as far as deadlines go, which are very helpful. But I think you're totally valid to take time, especially if writing was not a major part of your creative practice before. I mean, I know you used to write some, but if it's really like the first time it's really starting to gel, then it's great to take that time and explore it.
Yeah, and it was a process of realizing what work have I made in the past that I feel like I've gotten the most out of, or that I feel like is the most. I struggle with wanting to call work successful, which I think is kind of a slippery slope. I don't know if I've not made up my mind of if I think that that's a healthy way to think about work or not. The work that I quote unquote feel is successful often comes from a place of it being like confessional, or like just needing to do it because I need to get something across. I need to take the photo. I need to write it. I need to hold this object in my hand, and that can't be forced. So why should I try when it's just going to come across as inauthentic?
Absolutely. You have to trust your intuitive intelligence, right? Remember that from 3D?
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah. I remember it, but I feel like I've only recently capitalized on it.
Okay. Your intuitive intelligence is so critically important in your creative process, and you're trusting yourself to figure out and sense your way through what's authentic for you. Success, finished, resolve. I mean, these are all words that are trying to, like, in an attempt to describe to an outsider what an artist feels when they're done with a piece.
Yeah.
When they're done with a piece and want to present it to themselves or to anyone else. Like sometimes you're done with a piece and it goes in the trash, but sometimes you're done with a piece and it's like, yes, there's this intuitive, like all of you knows, not just the part of you, not the analytic part of you or the feeling part of you, but the all of you knows that this is right. And you may not have words for that because the intuitive intellect is not necessarily verbally based.
For me, I feel like I describe it as the somethingness. Like it's something significant or important or relevant or captivating. It's something. And that's doesn't sound like a good way to explain anything, but I know exactly what it means.
The somethingness. I kind of like the somethingness. I might start using that.
I mean, it just kind of makes sense to me because it's not abrasive or too, like, there's not too heavy of a connotation.
In France, right? It's the je ne sais quoi. It's got this something. I don't even know, right?
Yeah. I didn't think about it like that, but yeah, that's exactly kind of how I feel about it. But there's a certain it's almost kind of like a joke now, though. If you try to talk about your work and say, oh, it just has a je ne sais quoi, you automatically sound like a little
pretentious.
Yeah, a little pretentious artist person. But we'll just say somethingness for now, and we'll call it a day.
Excellent. I like it. So what skills? I'm curious. What do you see is everything different? Are you bringing anything over from your past works or from your experiences or from what you've learned at UK into your life and work now?
Yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, obviously school in the US and in the UK is very different. And I knew that going in, but it is very different.
How's it different? Tell me that first.
I mean, culturally, I think I was used to crits that were very critical.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I think it's a part of British, it is a part of British culture to like be a bit nicer. And I think often criticism comes across as mean. And so I've had a bit of a difficult time it was just an adjustment. I shouldn't say it was difficult. It was an adjustment because the first couple of crits when I came into school, I was ready to go. Because to me, when someone criticizes my work or has a strong opinion about my work, I take that as a compliment because that means that they're engaging with it in some way. And then I can focus on that engagement and figure out what is the work doing what I want it to do or not. And that was not necessarily appreciated. And I felt a little mean because most of the people that I go to school with have done their undergrad in the UK where that wasn't the norm. So that was something like it was an adjustment. Yeah.
Yeah. So you were like the abrasive American.
Yeah.
Mm.
Right. Okay. At first, but then, it is a small group. So then once people get to know me, like they obviously know that that's not who I am. So then I was able to open up a bit more, but that was definitely something that I wasn't expecting right off the bat. Also, how open-ended things are. Art school is I feel like the biggest, and COVID and working professionally in London, I think the biggest thing I've learned is opportunities don't come to you. You have to make them for yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think that's very much, at UK, not in the UK, UK, at the University of Kentucky, I feel like I knew it when I was in it, but I didn't fully appreciate how many opportunities and resources the university just threw at you. Mm-hmm. And my university here does have a lot of really great resources, but you have to find them. They don't hand you them like the School of Art and Visual Studies did for me.
Well, I'm glad that you understand now how much was offered to you at the School of Art and Visual Studies. Are you referring to like exhibition spaces? Were you referring to the wood shop? Like what kind of resources are you referring to there?
In every means of that sentence is kind of how I mean it. Space. I mean Central London. It is Central London. So space is a much more of a commodity, and buildings are older. I mean, we have a beautiful building that's, old in US standards at School of Art and Visual Studies, but the building at the Slade is all solid stone. So hanging works is, you have to have certain drills and you have to ask for permission. There's a lot more steps to do what you want to do. You can still do whatever you want to do. Faculty is great and they want to help you do whatever you need to do. Where I feel like at SAVS, it was just kind of complete freedom to do what you needed to do, when you needed to do it, how you needed to do it. And I knew that then. Like I said, I appreciated it then. Now, outside of it, it really was a great environment to make work in.
It's so good to see you. I'm so proud of you. I'm so flipping proud of you.
Thank you.
Look at you over there in London, living in Camden. Kind of got a little envy going on too. That's such a great place. My goodness.
Yeah, I kind of pinch myself every day that I can't really believe that I'm here. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's also very different than, working in the arts here is very different than in Lexington.
Oh, completely.
I mean, there's things that I definitely miss about Lexington that I mean, not even just Lexington, but smaller art communities are a lot less intimidating.
Sure. But every art community becomes a small art community. I lived in Brooklyn only for 2 months, and I feel so fortunate to have met some people who've become an art community for me in performance art. Mm-hmm. It's become a small community, even though now we live all over the place. Most of them don't live in Brooklyn anymore because it's outrageously expensive. In every large community, you can find small communities. It's perhaps a little bit more challenging to navigate and perhaps a little bit more intimidating, but Meg, you're awesome. So you will figure this out.
You're awesome too.
You'll learn the system, you'll find friends and you'll network because in an authentic way, not in a way, but you'll learn how to hustle in a way that makes sense for you.
Yeah. And that's a big part of, I didn't just study art, I studied arts administration. And so a big part of my intention for my future and for my career was I wanted to work with other artists or other creative working peoples. And that was a significant reason why I came to London, is there's, ad agencies and arts consultancy groups, and like the kind of bridging the two worlds that I was really interested in. And that's been a bit of it is hard to get your foot in the door, especially as an American from Kentucky, that it was maybe not a lot, but there was a good amount of people that, like my experience, that I felt very confident in kind of became irrelevant because everyone I was competing with have the same experience I have, but they were at the Sorbonne doing it, which is different than the galleries in Lexington that no one's ever heard of.
Of course. So, there's something you will find, there's something pedigree shifts, right? So the esteem of that your degree holds, depending upon where you are, that esteem shifts, right? And that holds true in the US. I went to very small schools, both undergrad and grad, and I find it's not the name recognition that gets me accolades. It's the skills that I bring with me and the integrity with which I work.
Right. But the thing that's been difficult, and I think that I'm blaming COVID for this as well.
Well, yes.
Is how do you show that if you can't get your foot in the door?
Yes.
And that kind of goes to an even bigger thing that I'm a bit of a skeptic a little bit now of the art world in London is very privilege based. And that's something that, I knew that privilege was a part of the arts, but I didn't realize it at the extent that it is here. And it's very much who you went to school with.
So it sounds like you're saying it's insular.
Yeah. Maybe I was naive in thinking this. I thought if you worked hard and you were nice to people and you knew the right people, obviously that's a part of it, but opportunities will go to the people most deserving of them. And that's not at all been the case, I feel like. And then that also brings up, like I said, the differences in the US and the UK that I kind of had to quickly learn what it means if class in the UK is something, we watch The Crown and we think it's like in the past or a little bit fictionalized in it.
I think you're in this beautiful part of life right now, where as a young adult, you're figuring out systems and navigating where you want to be and where you feel comfortable or where you feel challenged. And you don't have to decide. You've only been in England for a hot minute, right? How long are you here
for? My visa expires in September. So they're supposed to be in June. They're releasing if you graduated in 2020 or 2021, which I should graduate the first week of June. I'm on track. I have passed my courses and my thesis. So that's exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Now is the part where we get ready for a degree show that we don't know if it's going to be virtual or not virtual. Mm-hmm. Hopefully not virtual, but that's coming soon. But in June, the government is supposed to announce there's a 2-year visa program for if you graduated in 2020 or 2021. That's supposed to be automatic. But then there's also an artist visa that I'm like set to apply for. So, it's just juggling all these different hats of how do I pay my rent? And then how do I make art? And then how am I a student? And then how do I apply for a visa? It's not easy. It's not as, I didn't think it was going to be easy, but it's not been as easy as I thought it was going to be.
Get used to it. And you find and develop your own systems to navigate. And you redefine, I think as an adult, you will constantly redefine success. And what does success mean for you? And were you in 101 with me?
Mm-hmm.
So do you remember how we went through the goals and action plan? Yeah. So do that again and do that every year, every 6 months and look at your 1, 3, 5, 10-year goals and see how they've changed. Redefine your action plan. So really strategically plan your life so that you can be creative. For me, that's what it does. That strategic plan is a thing I get to hang my hat on so that I can I'm working towards this. And now I'm going to go be creative over here and develop this new body of work, knowing that it's going to help me. I'm working towards those goals. It's also it motivates me. It gives me deadlines that I wouldn't otherwise have. I mean, my whole creative practice in COVID is radically changed because there are no live events. So you don't have a studio. I have a studio, but I don't have people. I don't have that energetic exchange that I get. Like, you know, a lot of my performance art friends have transitioned to performance for the camera, and but working with performance for the camera, some for sure, but live is really my preference, or has been my preference.
Also, the work that I've seen of the performance I've seen you do, you interact with the audience.
Exactly.
So yeah. I don't know how a camera can't react to you.
I've tried different things on live streaming. I've tried collecting information ahead of time from social media and weaving that into the performance. I have to redefine my success because I can't travel, so therefore I can't perform. There are no live event, right? So then it's like, okay, well then I'm gonna keep working on the sculptural works. Turns out the sculptural works really were all in preparation for performance. And they still are. Yeah, it's an interesting time. And what an interesting time to be going through a graduate program. My goodness.
Yeah.
Graduate program overseas.
I didn't expect this. I mean, no one expected it, but yeah, I was met with the decision a year ago to defer for a year or not. And that was a very difficult decision of, do I pause my life? And also I went to grad right after undergrad for a reason. And so I felt like, well, maybe this isn't what I want. Yeah, it was a very difficult decision that I'm still not sure if I've made the right decision or not. Well, just because access.
Meg, of course please don't do that to yourself. Of course you made the right decision because it was the decision you made and you're living your life. And you can't go back. You can't do that to yourself. I mean, you would just turn up, talk about like it will just self-sabotage. So please, please, please.
Right. I'm good at that. That's one skill I've got.
Okay. Well, slow that down.
Yeah.
You are here now.
We're all work in progress, right?
We're all a work in progress. We all have decisions that we're like, oh, I wonder about that. But you can't, it'll just fester if you keep thinking too much about it. It's more helpful, I have found, it's more helpful for me to look at the present and future. It's important because you don't want to repeat the crappy mistakes we made. Mm-hmm. So our time is coming to an end, Meg.
Well, I'm so glad you were able to do this with me. This was great.
It was so good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
Pleasure. I'm so proud of you, and I want you to know that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That means a lot.